Hey everybody, welcome back to The Fringe, the final episode of Season 2.
Final countdown.
Did I make that sound like more ominous than it really should be? Or like, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's the end.
We forgot the fireworks.
For now.
Oh, shoot.
Fire marshal said no.
And the kazoos.
Yeah, the kazoos.
I have a kazoo in my car.
What? Okay, explain yourself.
What? I don't want to know.
So
Actually, that feels right.
I mean, I can explain myself.
Your horn broke?
Well, actually, yes, my horn is currently broken.
Of course it is.
No, at
Turns
my
out
wedding,
when you strap 4 kazoos together,
at my wedding,
Is that
instead
a
of
deer
people
whistle?
like clinking glasses to get us to kiss, we had him come up and play a song on kazoos so we could be entertained and they get something in return.
Unique, then,
Okay.
I guess.
It was pretty fun.
All right.
So you just have a few in your glove
so
box?
it's your horn
Yeah, so I have
replacement.
I have a few sitting in my glove box from my wedding.
I'm just imagining
Weird.
like Robin Hood Men in Tights, where all the deputies are.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
So Brandon just driving down the street kazooing.
Radio. No stinking radio.
I don't think I've played it since my wedding.
I'm not going on a road trip with you. All right, so our final episode, and you can tell because we're getting
Off
a
to a
little,
great start.
little punchy. No, I like it. It's good.
I'm
it's
really
good.
sober.
But we're into the golf season.
We are.
The grass is green. The weather's actually getting decent
Yes.
most of the time, which means it's time to just get out there and freaking golf.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in order to do that, we should probably be using the right stuff.
Proper equipment helps.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Tech,
Yes.
Mr. Brandon, try tech talk.
Tech talk with
Tech
Dry
talk.
Tech.
Tis I.
Talk to us. What do we need to be looking at as we head into full-blown golf season?
Hey, just, you know what? He is a club fitter, and
Besides-
you can tell by everything,
Besides the
including
pitching,
his demeanor.
I mean,
No
you just
pitching
need a
kazoos.
slight bit of autism
Yeah.
to make it work well.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
That should help the algorithm, actually,
Yeah.
these days.
That should help us get canceled, even though we're
Yeah.
irrelevant.
And
It's
I
an
can cut that if you want.
equipmentism.
we'll probably lose 3 followers for that one.
Yes. We're going to be
only
back
had
under
6.
100.
No, we were like 100. So,
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Getting
Now
up
it's
to
like
triple
92.
digits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We getting
We're gonna get
checks in
banned.
yet for that?
We're going to get suspended
There's
by the
no
PGA
checks,
Tour.
no.
Ad revenue?
No. Kazoos in the mail.
Okay.
So talk
No, we have to buy them kazoos.
Oh, well,
Shoot.
I don't think anybody's winning there.
No.
Yikes. All right, get us into the season. What do we need to be looking at this season to be successful?
Well, you might want to upgrade your garage sale set from the 90s. I've seen a lot of those this
I
year.
did that a few years ago. It was the clubs I bought in high school. It was like they were Lynx Black Cats.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
played against
Yeah.
sports, wouldn't even take them.
Isn't that a firework?
We'll give you $1.
No, they wouldn't.
Wait, they make
wouldn't.
firecrackers?
I ended up giving them away to a guy who gathers clubs for youth who can't afford them.
Sure.
He was a homeless guy.
No,
No, okay.
no, the kids might be, but not him.
No.
You just insulted
We're
a
trying to
guy
get the
that's
homeless
trying to
into
help
golf.
kids get into golf. That was real low of you.
Yeah, so Brandon,
Yes.
try this again. What do we need to get into this golf season to be amazing?
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. There definitely is. You need to get into a studio with a good fitter.
Oh, well,
That would be
a good
step
start.
one. Someone
Okay.
who knows what they're doing.
okay.
Preferably not a retail store where you have a minimum wage worker
Ooh,
that gives you a 20-minute fitting.
thin ice.
I'll tell you what, I have hit balls and dicks, and I think you're being generous.
Cool. Okay, we're breaking the ice.
Gloves are
Yeah.
off.
Why not?
Okay.
Why not? They know.
I mean,
Get fit by
Okay.
people that know what they're doing.
there are some people there who do know what they're doing.
Not at the one I was at.
But a lot of times, I used to work at one of those retail stores.
Okay.
When
Me
I
too.
was 22,
All right.
and I didn't know. I thought I knew more than I did,
Okay.
And you did.
and I gave a lot. I gave a lot of
everybody
people
else.
some bad advice.
I was going to say that just kind of comes with being 22. But
Well,
Yeah.
a little bit.
But yeah, get somebody who has experience, years under their belt, and actually cares about you as a golfer.
yeah.
You're not just a dollar sign that they can sell a club to
That's
and get a kickback.
that's the touchy but real subject. Is some people just want to sell you.
Exactly.
Others want to help you. There is a difference, and
Yeah.
you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which a lot of our fitters, or fittings, I should say, for
We have
Brandon
so many
this
fitters.
year.
So many.
all of
Brandon's got a lot of personalities.
all of him. Well, I feel like because so many of the people, at least at this point, I don't know how many like non-students you fit this season, but I feel like
Quite
a
a
lot
few.
of them are like current clients of ours that we're working
Yeah.
with, and
Fair amount of new people though too.
so as we're growing that part of the operation here these last few years, and Brandon's been integral in that. It's just being blatantly upfront and honest with people about whether this works for you or not, and I feel like you're buying their trust at that point to say, okay, well maybe not right now, but let's look in 6 months and see if this works better. And
Yeah.
So, and once you've earned people's trust from a coaching standpoint, there is no having to sell them on equipment. They're ready to buy equipment. That's not the hard part. It's getting them to wait to a time where their dollar will go the furthest. I feel like, at least on our end of things from the coaching standpoint. So.
Yeah, that's easy coming from that coaching perspective, because a lot of people that are already interested in it will tell you, and then they just basically say, I'll wait until you give me permission, coach.
Kinda, yeah.
And then it's like,
Right.
yeah, you're ready when you have kind of a baseline of fundamentals that allows you to be, somewhat repetitive. And
Right.
so, and then Brandon does a good job of driving that home, and in some cases turning fittings away that don't go productively in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had a few of those already this year where it's just, there's no predictability, no consistency, and the club can only do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you physically cannot make contact, or the contact is so bad that we're 100 yards offline right, 100 yards offline left on the next shot.
Are you making fun of me?
If it applies, sure.
Don't do a fitting yet, Duke.
Yeah, you're not ready.
Too late.
Yeah.
But if there's no consistency or predictability and contact is so poor that the data doesn't make sense,
Yep.
there's really, like, I can make educated recommendations in terms of where you need to be or will need to be in the future, but you're not going to see as much benefit as someone who's a little more skilled or at least a little more consistent. If there's something consistent there, we can work with that. It's like I'm consistently hitting center of the face or a little towards the toe and I'm snap hooking everything. It's like, all right, we have some options to get you straightened out a little bit. We can change the weighting, we can change the loft, change the lie angle. There's things we can do to adjust consistent misses. But if you're hitting 6 inches behind the ball every time, then
Sounds like you need a shorter club.
it could help.
Never thought of that.
Yeah.
Have you tried a wedge?
No, I think the one time I've gotten fit, and it was before I knew you, so I don't feel bad about it. But the most fascinating part of that process was just how data driven it was, and how
Yeah.
it wasn't about, because I went in expecting to really like this brand of drivers and this brand of whatever. And
Conjecture.
well, yeah, I mean, based on all the research I did on Golf Digest, this would fit me well. And it was just really fascinating to actually look at numbers and go, yeah, it's not good. You should do something different. It's like, fine. What would you try? And then I get there and start doing that. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that's better. Uh-huh.
that's
yeah.
But
Big
that's
difference.
kind of important to note with modern fitting, is that with the technology we have these days, the numbers are just indisputably accurate. And so it really takes the guesswork out of it. And the more clever, even our shaft optimizer really makes for some pretty cool, quick focusing in on numbers.
Yeah.
And that's just a tool that we use that is it's obviously from Mizuno. It's called the Mizuno Shaft Optimizer, but it really helps you kind of narrow down quickly, right, to the kind of top shaft options for a player.
Yeah,
And there's still a lot of testing to do there, but
purely
it gives you
data-driven too.
Yeah.
So talk about that for a
Completely
minute,
objective.
because when I went and did my fitting, he's like, well, the first thing we're going to do is find the shaft that fits you. And I went, you're an idiot wasting your time. Like, why in the world is the shaft that important? Like, why would you start with that? And it blew my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting the right weight, flex, even step pattern, especially, it has a big difference in terms of launch angle, spin rates, so trajectory.
You can use my
Distance.
fitting as an example.
Yeah.
'Cause
So, for
it's a
example,
very specific need that we had.
yeah,
Yeah.
John tends to have lower back issues somewhat frequently, which kind of inhibits his ability to use lower body properly during the swing. So, generally speaking, kind of comes a little on top of the ball, covers it.
Not steep.
Not steep,
Yeah.
but
Just negative attack angle.
negative attack angle,
Yeah.
which hits the ball low, significantly lower than he'd probably like, and
In
gets
situation.
enough spin most of the time.
Yeah.
So it still has some stopping power, but especially when you get into the longer clubs, longer irons, just not being able to get them airborne and going to get a lot more rollout. Little
lot of
more
stingers.
difficult. What's that?
A lot of unintentional stingers.
It's
Yeah.
windy. It's windy here. So
That is
Yeah.
helpful. That way.
Right.
But so our entire objective was, hey, how can we maximize carry distance? What's
Yeah.
going to get us there? So we looked at a couple different shafts that have lower kick points to launch it higher. Spin wasn't really an issue, so we weren't worried too much about that. And then the club head as well. I mean, the major one was the shaft itself. We went lighter and less stiff, so it'd kick a little harder to help get the ball off the ground. And then the club head was just kind of fine-tuning that last aspect of how much forgiveness do we want, how much height do we actually need? Are we going too high now?
Yeah.
And
that
ended up,
will never be a thing.
Yeah, not for you.
Even with a women's flex.
But we ended up in a combo set of the Srixon ZXIs. It had the ZXI 7 in the lower irons, so just a kind of cavity back or muscle back blade, I suppose is the right terminology for that one. And then in the longer clubs, with that kind of move he has through impact, tend to hit toe. So he went for the ZXI 5 that has a little more toe weighting and, generally speaking, lower center of gravity, more launch. And it kind of solved...
They call it a player's distance iron.
Yeah, player's distance. So it kind of solved all of his issues in terms of contact misses on the longer irons, and then trajectory as well.
So, for example, my current 7-iron peak height, so one measurement we do is peak height, meaning what's the literal crest height, was really only ever as good as 75 feet, I think.
Yeah, I think you hit 79 once. Was it?
Forcing it. But average was 75, no better. And with the new setup, was able to basically hit near 100 feet of peak height. So a 25% height improvement, which I desperately needed.
Yeah.
And that was all just mainly shaft. Maybe a little bit club head, but mainly shaft.
Yeah, especially in the longer irons with the ZXI 5, that brought the peak height up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it was just lightening up the shaft, make it a little more flexible.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, I mean, all of your clubs should be between that 90 and 110 range for your apex, and it has to do with descent angle.
Well,
because
most people don't know that. 'Cause
asterisk on that.
Yeah.
It's directly related to ball speed
Yeah.
for peak height.
for peak height.
So if you only hit 15 miles an hour, it's probably not going to get to 90.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you are a slower
Speed.
player, that
Seems legit.
height window is
Right.
going to come back
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because even if your launch angle is the same, obviously it's moving faster. It's going to
Right.
go higher overall before falling.
Okay, so for the caliber player John is, that's what we
Yes.
were trying to see was better optimal heights, which is just, again, your ball is going to come in at a slightly steeper angle, and now his spin can actually sit and hold the greens instead of
Right.
hit and release.
It's going to give him a lot more precise distance.
Yeah, so
control.
the same spin, it's like I'm getting a steeper descent angle just because of the height, so it's more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're hitting a low line drive, even with a ton of spin, it's like it's still coming in hot.
Right.
Like, it's
and you're
gonna-
more
it's
likely
gonna
to
wanna
get a
release.
big first bounce that's going
Yeah.
to skip.
Yeah.
So just having that land and stops, you're going to be so much more precise in your distance control. You're going to have a lot less variance.
Also, why I love that little low check 60 so much. It plays to that strength.
Yeah.
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 But
So,
that
yeah.
was like a really good example of seeing numbers change immediately with a few simple fixes.
Right.
And
Slight adjustments.
yeah. And it helps that I'm functional enough as a ball striker to see those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have your fair share of mishits in there, but
Yeah.
the mishits are important too.
Yeah.
Because we need to look at forgiveness. Like when you have your most common mishit, that's not egregious. Like you're not topping it and it's going 5 feet. Like John hitting it toward the toe, we're going to lose ball speed.
Yeah.
We're going to usually end up a little more left because of that miss. It's like, how can we counteract that?
Well,
it's like you're not really missing the short clubs.
We didn't really lose any distance on those.
No.
That was the fascinating part.
Yeah,
You just
because you
overhooked
don't
it
hit
a little
it far
bit.
enough off
The club
off
kind
the
of
center. But,
scratches your back.
yeah, so we can use technology to your advantage to play to
Yeah.
your strengths as well as, and probably more importantly, your misses.
Yeah.
Like, you can hit that Black Cat Lynx dead center, and it's going to feel great. You're going to get a decent ball flight out of it. But
the
what happens when you
knife
miss
in.
it 2 centimeters off? I lost 20 yards, and I'm 50 yards left of where I wanted to be. That's where the newer technology has really gotten better, is controlling the center of gravity of the club to give you consistent launch, consistent spin, consistent ball speed with a larger area to strike it in.
That's also the purpose of putting a hybrid in the bag versus a 3-iron. So I've
Yeah.
always carried a 3-iron and don't really know why, to be honest, for how hit or miss I am with it. But like a hybrid, very simply put, a 3 hybrid, missed hits off the toe were a loss of 15 yards, and on a 3-iron it was 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that simple.
And it's
you
like
just don't lose as much when you suck.
half the amount offline, like half the side spin, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that was a very noticeable characteristic of the shaft change in the irons was just killed side spin. So my misses all became like straight, much straighter misses.
Right.
It wasn't like getting the movement. And that's just the characteristic of that shaft. But
Well, and actually, I think more of that had to do, the shaft was really stable, but I think a little more had to do with the club head itself.
Oh,
So we went
really?
to a much thicker design with a lower, little further back center of gravity. Because before you had
Put some junk in your trunk.
a little bit.
fits my growing dad bod. Works out.
Because before, I remember you had the tours, the
919s,
JPX tours, which
yeah.
are barely a muscle back, mostly blade.
Mostly blade, yeah.
Right.
So just going to a little thicker bottom piece.
Most of
There's-
that's frequency of play.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was playing a lot more, then it wouldn't necessitate that change. But
Right.
when you're only playing 30,
Or if
30
your
rounds a year.
body could
So
move how you want it to, that would help as well.
that hasn't been the case since I was a toddler. I haven't had flexibility ever in my life.
Yeah, but
when I was a kid.
you don't have more now than you did 10 years ago.
That's absolutely correct.
So giving you that help is important.
You guys touching on like the dispersion stuff. So I had a question just because of the fitting you did with me. We went from, I'd had the Project X 60 rifles the last couple years or 6.5s. I'd bounced around with the rifle shaft, and largely because I'd kind of fit myself before Brandon got here and found like, all right, I was going from KBS money tapers, C tapers. I've played, I don't know, at this point, like 5 different shafts in my clubs. And a lot because with the optimizer, it'll give you like a recommendation of like 1A, 1B, 1C. And I think, again, as you get better as a golfer, well, you've got options and you're not going to see these like massively contrasting changes.
Right.
And so what kind of confused me a little bit as to the performance was that I always pictured Dynamic Gold X100s, which is what you fit me into this year, as something that could create more like shot shape and curvature.
I think the benefit you saw was from the tip stiffness, because we went with the tour issue. That right near the hosel at the end, it's a lot stiffer.
Oh, okay.
And so it's going to get through the turf with less deflection, as well as just more overall stability, even if you don't make heavy contact.
Okay.
And like we saw, your angle of attack was a little bit on the heavy side, like you were
Steep.
7.5 down. You weren't not necessarily steep, but you really got down through the ball into the turf pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
And your
that's-
path was good. You were like 6 degrees into out. Well, that was the other thing when we went back to heavier. Your path neutralized a little more. Like you're like 6.5 into out. As soon as we went heavier, you got to 3.5 into out, which is a lot closer to the tour average in terms of path as a 7-iron. So it kind of neutralized your path a little bit. So you didn't. That also helped create less of that kind of left miss that you're having.
I see. So lighter, just I'm manipulating it more.
Right. And you've done so much coaching demonstrating, hey, let's flatten the club and swing on plane.
Seriously.
Like you're doing that every day.
Yeah.
Your swing plane got flatter and flatter, and that was causing more and more hook. So by adding weight and the club itself actively resisting that shallowing motion as much, and with the tip stiffness, it kept you less head deflection, more online.
Because similar to, I'm sure, John's response, that's what blew my mind. I'm just like, I haven't seen those straighter shots in years because I've just been struggling with this, bit of a too shallow move. And, that's what plagued me a couple years ago where my driver was just like block, hook. And John took a look at it and was like, well, your ball position's in the wrong place. So I fixed that, and that kind of resolved it and didn't really go back to it after that. And then months later was realizing like, oh man, my path is getting way too into out these days. And in part because I'm mobile enough to where I can do that, but I also fought steep for 20 years. So it was like, I don't need to like exaggerate this anymore. And so I'm now on the other side where I'm like trying to steepen my swing plane again. So it's just
that's a normal.
It's a weird.
That's a normal learning curve through skill levels, though, because that's also most pros. And most coaching centered around pros is not about flattening the swing. Like that's an obsession that happens in the amateur world because you're so used to seeing people swing 20 degrees over the ball. They look like they're trying to chop it in half. And so we're so used to saying that 98% of the time. Like, well, we got to work you towards the draw because you, again, look like you're trying to cut the ball in half. So... But that changes very much on tour, and a lot of those guys are working on. You can see it in their rehearsal swings, like it's like cover moves practically.
Yep.
They're doing cover moves over their shoulder, which is what you're teaching all the amateurs to get the heck away from. But that's because they also spent many, many years like learning how to slot the club, and it often turns into too flat. So it's just a normal progression. Yeah,
totally agree.
I was gonna say, for anybody who doesn't know what the heck Brandon's talking about, that's a good thing, right? Because that's the technicality of fitting.
Well, that's the reason why you hire somebody who knows what they're doing. Why you're trusting someone to do it. Yeah, as opposed to walking into a box store going stiff.
Yeah.
Well, John and I, prior to Brandon's arrival, we were selling Mizuno clubs as an offering to students who were interested. I mean, that was kind of it. And, gave us a brand to partner with and have equipment and stuff. And so I knew enough to be dangerous with it, I guess. But I just kind of realized using him as a sounding board and then having his level of expertise was just like, oh, okay, great. So similar to like handing that job of my swing coach off to John, being like, okay, Brandon, like tell me what does all this stuff mean? I don't study it enough to know. My brain can really only handle all the coaching knowledge I have, and that's kind of it.
We needed someone smarter than us.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't go that far.
And so much of it was just
autistic, whatever.
We love you. But so much of it was just, practical thinking of, like, I'll never forget last season where we're talking through some of my struggles, and I've got, my 7, 8, 9 iron are kind of my blade category, and I'd been struggling with too much of a left miss, which we've now kind of nailed down. But, he was just like, well, you realize blades create more curvature. And I went, oh, yeah. And he's like, so why are you, he's like, well, why are you playing blades then? And I was just like, they're pretty. It's like, I didn't think through it logically. It was just like, well, I don't need the forgiveness there, so that's what I'm going to do.
Well, it's fair to, it might be, correct me if I'm overgeneralizing, but it's fair to categorize game improvement as a club that's meant to neutralize, specifically getting you away from slice. And we're
generally speaking, not all brands,
right?
But if you're going game improvement, they're going to have more offset. You're going to have some slight
anti-slice,
less than we used to see, though. offset for people that don't know is when the club face sits behind the shaft. So
Yeah.
you'll see it kind of curve in a little bit.
And some brands
offset
are
is meant
more
to,
pronounced
it's
than
meant
others.
to combat slice, basically.
It just gives you a little more
promotes
time
draw.
to get that club face square.
Yeah. But we're seeing a lot less of that. Like there was a phase
Yes.
where even there were drivers and woods being produced
Oh,
that had
man.
heavy offsets,
Oh, yeah.
and they were
Like the old-
pretty gross to look at. But
Like
they,
the old Adams tight lies drivers that were like
yeah.
back here.
Do you know what we're talking about?
I had one of those.
Yeah.
A tight light driver?
Not a driver,
Oh,
but
okay.
Fairway wood.
fairway wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's plenty. I mean, there's still plenty of clubs
with,
out there.
What's with for the viewer? What's with the diminishing of severe offsets?
I would have to ask a manufacturer.
Yeah. Well, but some of
my
it's,
thought
some of
process
it's
would
weighting,
be
right?
is
Just-
changing the center of gravity, changing the
Yeah.
weighting. That gives you more ability to close the face, so you
Yeah.
don't need to offset it as much to give you time to square up the face.
I would also say adjustable clubs.
I was going to
That
say,
helped, yeah.
Like if you start moving weight around and you can do it freely with a wrench, you don't need as much offset
Yeah.
because you can physically affect how the club moves.
Yeah, so I mean that would apply for your hybrids and
Yeah.
woods and drivers. Not so
So-
much with the irons. Some irons do have some adjustability in terms of like weighting and stuff. You can put heavier or lighter weights in the toes. Obviously, changing
Yeah.
swing weight, just making the whole club feel lighter.
Yeah.
You can get it square a little easier typically.
yeah. I was going to say, like, the wood category is easy because everything's carbon now. And so they're just using, weights to help offset that stuff.
Yeah,
At this
true.
point.
When you've got a super lightweight head,
You know.
a 10-gram weight does a lot.
Right.
Right.
For
'Cause
example,
you can,
ping.
You can manipulate how the club wants to move in the
Yeah.
swing.
Like Ping this year with their G440, with the upgraded materials that are lighter, stronger, especially like implementing more
Turbulators.
carbon fiber.
Turbulators.
They were able to take 6 grams of weight
Thanks, George
out of the
Bush.
head just from adding more carbon fiber, removing some metal that didn't affect the structural integrity or anything, thinning down the face, and they were able to take that weight and put it lower and further back, which just gives you more center of gravity, larger center of gravity.
Yep.
You're going to get more ball speed across the face. You're going to get good launch, good spin, even on miss hits. So that as materials improve and they're able to implement them into the club heads more, then it's just a physics game of, hey, where do we put the weight to give us the best chance to hit the ball high, far, and straight? That's kind of the game manufacturers play at this point. Because really, you look at an iron now, and you look at an iron in like 1970, they don't actually, like the physical appearance isn't drastic most of the time. Unless you look at like the old butter knife blades that like
Right.
Jack
No
Nicklaus used to
bounce.
play.
Yeah, nothing on
But you look
no
at the
offset.
game improvement stuff, they're a little smaller back then, a little less offset. But overall, the design is relatively the same. But the materials and the weighting is so different
Yeah.
just because of how far the engineering has come. So,
That, and I feel like the price points jumped up enough to where a lot of these companies are now utilizing higher end materials, it seems.
right. Yeah, like Srixon.
Well, but it's not that much because I guess this isn't that long ago, but in high school when I bought my first nice set of Nike Pro combos, they were still over $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's-
my fit set versus the set I bought in high school were
Yeah.
three times more. So,
Oh, really?
oh yeah,
Well, and
Yeah.
they've like
just drivers,
Yeah.
dude.
prices have gone up, but
great,
also not.
Great
Yeah.
Big Bertha
Right.
used to
in
be
the- in the
$200
same
bucks.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like 1.2 million.
Well, if you look at like the tech for TVs, right? Like all the new tech is always like crazy expensive. At one point, 4K was like optimal, and TVs were $2,000 and stuff. And so I feel like I remember 10 years ago when titanium on the driver faces was only on the tour level. And then within a couple years, Mizuno was experimenting with it, and then other companies started copying that. And so just the availability of higher end materials has driven up cost a little bit. PXG drove up cost on their own a little bit, just resetting the market and in a lot of ways. But now you're seeing, high end materials and just off the shelf stuff you can buy without getting fit. And so, you're buying a 5-year-old driver these days, it's 10 times better than something material wise that was produced 20 years ago. And so I feel like that's where the offset stuff was their way back then of trying to help out. But now the materials they're so much easier, more easily produced. It seems like they're refinements of them.
Well, and especially with the advancement of AI and robotics and stuff, they've been able to keep costs down and inefficiency up just through better technology in terms of the production side. So, I mean, the prices overall have gone up just through like general inflation, but so has the quality of the materials and the quality of the engineering.
Same. You could say that about every industry.
Right.
Automobiles are the same.
Sure.
Like quality materials, but then also customers demand more. And then the companies respond with what they demand and have to charge accordingly, and then people get pissed off. And it's like, you asked for this. You wanted a fancier car. So.
Well, we are seeing the comeback, though, in the golf industry of the less expensive options, but are still high quality.
Yeah.
Like the Como is a big one of that. You got Costco, obviously, with the Kirkland Signature stuff.
Like Sticks Golf.
Sticks Golf.
Yeah.
They do have those markets for the people that are more casual in terms of golf that don't want to spend the top
But they can
dollar.
get a decent set for $600.
And it's still,
For the whole set,
if
and
the
a
top
bag
of the
and
top
everything.
is A tier, they're still like B tier products for a reduced cost.
Yeah.
So they're still good.
Yeah.
They're not, your top flight package set.
Walmart set. Yeah.
That's going to be such a quality drop off. It's literally not worth the price a lot of times.
And you can feel it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask, like, is it really that different? And it's like, yes, it's dramatic.
Get a used set that's 5 years old that was top of the line.
Yeah.
That's now the same price.
Yeah.
Not if you're hitting 6 inches behind the ball.
Well,
You can't feel
we
it.
covered that.
That's
Well,
the
then,
exception.
then if you did
Yeah.
that with a
Covered
Walmart
that.
set, the shaft would just snap in half.
Yeah, exactly. So you can
You
notice.
can feel it.
But it's Walmart, so you
Which-
can return them.
I did have that happen.
Exchange.
I had a student that he had like it was a little bit older Strata set, and he's probably swinging 90 miles an hour with a 7-iron, so he had a lot of club head speed. And he comes in one week, he's like, 3 of my clubs snapped in half when I was playing, and he tended to hit behind the ball. I was like, well, that's the quality difference that you're going to get. So,
Also, don't hit 6 inches behind them.
Yeah.
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 You playing golf, or did you murder
Or the
somebody?
occasional golfer that bounces the club off their own shoulder. You ever get that?
Oh, yeah.
That's fun. I keep breaking shafts right by the handle. It's like, well, you are deflecting the thing off your shoulder blade. So it's bound to happen.
I remember that guy from Edwin Watts.
Oh, I've had a few. Yeah, but
was
that
like
was
our-
a guy that actually
That was like
broke
our first
multiple
6
iron
months
shots.
coaching. And
Yeah.
I remember you were working with him, and he did it once in our shop.
Yeah.
Just like
Broke
twang!
like 3 8-irons in a row.
Yeah.
Reshafted it, broke it again.
Right.
It's like maybe
But
we need
didn't
to
he
fix
like
yours,
refuse to believe he was the culprit? It was like he's just like
Yeah,
complaining
I
about
was
the
just
quality
like,
of it.
I
It's
just
like these are
recorded one
Titleists.
video and I was like, watch the video.
Jesus.
He's like, there's no way that's happening because he couldn't feel it. And I was like, watch the video. The club's like ricocheting off his own shoulder. And it finished.
Must have had like a massive callus on his shoulder blade.
Yeah, I'm like, how have you not broken your shoulder?
Right. Yeah.
It looks painful.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm there's plenty of shafts that we get in here that we have to send back that on drivers and fairway woods that they're like, yeah, I don't know, I just swung and the head flew off, like the shaft broke right at the hosel, and then you look and there's a ball mark right on the
Yeah.
like on the shaft.
To be fair, you do with graphite, it's way better tech than it used to be.
Yes.
But you still get defects. So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
people will just be taking a practice swing and the damn head
Well,
flies
the-
off. And it's
The
like,
Gen
what
4
the heck?
hazardous from last
So-
year had a lot of issues.
They did.
Yeah.
Mine finally broke.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw probably 10 or 12 of those last year that I had to send back.
Yeah, most times just manufacturer defects or, they could, all it takes is like a hairline crack type thing and then
Yeah.
it just lets free.
Well, there's a reason you don't see a lot of people still have titanium faces over carbon faces,
Oh,
even after
Shots
3 or
fired.
4 years of that experiment.
yeah.
They haven't
Yeah.
backed off yet.
No, they will soon, I'm sure.
You think?
Yeah, if their sales keep dropping like they are, I
Oh,
can't imagine they would keep up with it.
yeah.
And with how much return product they have to replace.
Was that just a
It's
cost
funny how you
cutting
don't even
measure?
need to mention the brand.
What's that?
Was that just a cost-cutting measure?
To do the carbon face?
Yeah.
They saw it as an improvement in technology. And they advertised it as such. Like their whole
Yeah, I can't.
advertisement when it first came out is like, this is revolutionary. Everybody's going to be using this by next year because it's such great technology.
Drunk uncle.
And realistically, there was like a 2% improvement that you're talking about. in
This
terms
stuff
of
was great.
yeah. And it wasn't very forgiving.
I can't
It
see
did
it
create more
being.
ball speed.
I can't see it being any more cost effective. Really.
No, it's actually more expensive.
Yeah, because like
Carbon
it's a
fiber is more
fabric.
expensive than titanium.
Yeah.
And it's harder
Well,
to work with, too.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true across the board, but I just can't see it being a cost savings thing.
No.
They're just trying something. But also, when your customer service is a well-oiled machine and you're used to returns, I guess it works. 'Cause
Doesn't matter.
It's just like,
Right.
just send them a new one.
Yep.
We better be careful with our shots fired.
Yeah, they're not watching
Didn't say
anyway.
anything.
But it's not a coincidence that nobody else has gone that route,
Right.
right?
I would think so.
No, I
'Cause
mean,
it's been,
there isn't any other
It's been 4
carbon
years.
face clubs.
Somebody else would have developed
unless
their
they
own
patented
version
it.
by now.
Yeah.
Well, you can always reverse engineer without getting sued.
Yeah, companies do it every year.
Yeah. As long as you don't call it the same thing.
Right.
I mean, how many knockoff golf brands are out there?
Oh, yeah.
Farben Kyber.
Urban Kyber. Yep.
Good way to do it.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So what else do we need to know for the season? What else?
Every company has its strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Good topic.
Don't
Yeah.
always trust what you read. Some of those review groups get incentives.
What? You mean they got free clubs and
To-
got paid to put
to
together
promote
the
a
review?
product?
No.
They're not always independent and unbiased. Some are. And especially with the volume of testing that they have to do, they're not always as thorough as they could be. So kind of do your research, of course. Go to someone like is knowledgeable that you can trust, but also test for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, stop buying clubs because your buddy did or your favorite tour pro rocks
Right.
the same brand. It's like absolutely
Find out
never-
what works
yeah.
for you, what's comfortable, what feels good, what looks good.
Yeah.
I've never understood that marketing ploy and how effective it is, because it is effective every year. It's like
Yeah.
the number one driver on tour. I'm like,
That's social pressure, man. Come on.
okay.
Yeah, it actually
And?
makes perfect sense why it's so effective.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's like that's the whole point.
Yeah.
At best case or best
I just
use
don't
case
think that
there
way,
is
I
a tour
guess.
player. Like, well, he's using it. Why wouldn't you use it? Like, okay.
Well, they also have a little different product that they get.
Sometimes
Most of
their
the time.
Some of them.
sometimes not always, but
Not
sometimes
always.
their product can be entirely different
Right.
than what you're buying off the
Yeah,
shelf.
they get custom
It's got the same
weighting,
logo on
custom
it.
Oh, no.
shaping.
Yeah.
They have their own custom
I'd say
literal
that's
designs.
likely reserved to the top 10 to 15 players in the world, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Or if you're Bryson, you're just printing them off yourself at home.
Yeah.
before you
Yeah,
come
just
out.
Buy a 3D
printing.
printer, make your own clubs,
Yeah.
forego the whole other.
I still remember. I think it was Cam Smith when he was playing the British a couple years ago. They asked him like, "Oh, he was leading or doing well, or maybe it's when he won." It might not have been Cam Smith, but
It's a great story, by the way.
This has so many loose ends.
it was somebody at the somebody
He
in
might
the
have
top
been
10.
winning.
It was
I
a
don't know.
guy
He
at a
probably was a different
tournament.
guy.
Somebody in the top 10 at
he
the
was
British
losing.
a couple years ago. And he was talking about he just put a new driver in the bag for that week, and it was the Ping G430 driver. And the interviewer was like, "Oh yeah, so what like customization stuff did you get? Like what kind of shaft do you have?" And it was like, "Oh, dude, you could go to Dick's Sporting Goods and pick one up. Like I just have the stock 55 gram Alta CB
Oh.
stiff." I was
So
like,
it was
"I don't know a
Rocco
thing
Mediate.
about it. I just know it works."
yeah. Yeah, Rocco.
He was
would do
sponsored
that.
by Dick's. Right? Wasn't he?
For a while.
Mediate?
Yeah, he
he
was.
was
Probably.
sponsored by Dick's.
Yeah, so I don't
Preach the
remember
whole
who it
brand
was, but it was-
agnostic thing.
But yeah, it's like, so sometimes they do just, the stock stuff works just fine for those guys. But a lot of them, their swings are unique.
You mean
and-
for the best players in the world that can hit anything?
Yeah.
And hit a few hundred balls a day. And
There's that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more fine tuning that goes on tour in terms of weighting, and even, like I said, that some of them even have their own custom club head, where it's like everything is exactly to my specs, exactly how I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the famous story of Nick Faldo calling out his ping fitters on the swing weight of his 8-iron being 3 points different, and they were adamant that it was fit perfectly, and then they went and measured it, and it was like exactly 3 swing weight points off. As he's just sitting there hitting it on the range like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
When you're that intuitive,
He's got great hands.
That in tune, he does.
Soft
great,
hands.
really
Soft
nice,
hands.
supple hands. Never gonna live that down. Oh boy.
Yeah, now for most amateurs, stuff like that is going to make that much of a difference. Like, you don't need a $400 upcharge shaft. It's not going to give you like drastically improved.
But where would it? So I was thinking about this. My dad is 66, 67, 68, somewhere in there. Certainly decent mobility for somebody his age, but he's definitely, more into senior clubs.
Yeah.
But he's always just bought stuff off the rack. Like, what for those kinds of folks? What kinds of customizations are actually valuable for them versus don't waste your money on that?
For lower club head speeds, stuff like that. You're going to be looking at basically how can we maximize speed and how can we get the ball in the air? Because like we talked about earlier, at lower club head speeds, your trajectory, your peak height doesn't get up there as much. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how can we just get the ball to go?
It's the same process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it's important to highlight. You're not shortcutting or doing anything different. It's just unique to their numbers and what they can achieve.
Yep.
It's the same process.
Yeah. And typically at higher club head speeds, when you're dealing with shorter or lower club head speeds, when you're dealing with shorter distances, dispersion usually isn't as much of an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
The shorter you hit it, the less offline you're going to go.
Yeah.
So it is slightly different in what you're looking for. And playability for people at lower club head speeds is, how can we have a shorter club into the green?
Right.
Obviously, you still want to keep it in play. You still keep it in the fairway.
Right.
But it's like, how can I maximize distance so I don't have to go driver, 3 hybrid, and I still have a wedge in on a par 4.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I get a little bit closer where that
And
hybrid
still
can
par
reach
it.
the green into?
Play the forward tees.
Yeah, well, that's another discussion.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Then we can get into the whole, like,
That's a different episode.
how the handicap
Yeah.
system is inadequate because of distance. And
yeah.
but
Yeah.
so yeah, your objectives become a little bit different, typically,
But
player to player.
To be realistic, it's still important to remind people that you're always going to be limited by your numbers somewhat.
Yeah.
So you can only do so much but for most people, when they're buying clubs off the rack, usually there's some gains to find there in a fitting that's done properly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like somebody like JT, I'm going to be very specific about peak height and spin rate because he has more club head speed, he has more ball speed. Ball's already going to carry far. It's like, how can we get it to stop when it lands on the green? Somebody who's maybe older, less club head speed, I'm a little less worried about stopping power because the ball's not traveling fast anyway. When it gets on the green, it's not going to roll. Or maybe we need some roll just to, again, maximize a little bit of distance. As long as it's consistent and predictable.
But they're not getting hard check spin anyways.
Right.
So
You're not getting
it's
6,500 RPMs of backspin on a 7-iron.
Yeah.
You're down at 4,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to check a little, but so yeah, it's just different depending on the needs of the person. Or like, for example, today I had a fitting where normally when you have higher club head speeds, higher ball speed, you're worried about going too high and getting too much spin. But the way this person
Unless
was
you're
swinging, they had a very steep angle of attack, really covering the ball, really compressing it. And they weren't getting any height or spin. Like, their peak height was 55 feet average for a 7-iron.
Yes.
And it's like,
I'm not the lowest.
it was like pulling teeth to get him up to 80.
You striking it good?
Not
Yeah.
hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's like 40, 60 in terms of
But on good
successful
strikes, that was still
But on,
peak height.
on good strikes, like he's launch angle is 9, or with his club was like 7.5 for a 7-iron.
With a 7-iron?
Yeah, which is 10 degrees low where we want to
That's
be.
a punch shot.
So he had speed, but he had an uncommon problem for his swing that we had to resolve. Normally it's, hey, how do we bring that down? How do we keep the spin down so we don't balloon up to the stratosphere? And for him, it was the opposite. He was swinging like 92 with a 7-iron, so plenty of speed, but just couldn't get the ball in the air because of other mechanics in his swing. So every fitting is going to be unique, going to be very individual to the person and their specific needs.
And the slower golfer can't get the ball in the air because they can't generate the speed or the spin.
Right. Yeah,
So
we
you
might
have
be
to manufacture lift, basically.
right. We might be looking at a 20-degree launch angle for a driver being good,
Yeah.
which for most people we're going to be 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Their ball flight needs to just have more of a
It needs more arc to it
Yeah.
to get it to go.
Where the high speed player, you're looking for really late crest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start it low. It's going to spin and rise and land steep.
Yeah.
So, but the nice thing about fitting is the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
You can't fake your way to improvement. It's like,
True.
here it is. This is what we need to change. And it's like this club changed it. It's a lot more cut and dry most of the time.
For sure.
Yep.
So for people in the Midwest, remove your superstitions and what you think you know. And hire a fitter that knows what they're talking about.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Because you do get a lot of that. There's a lot of cynicism and superstition around it all.
Yeah.
In golf?
Yeah.
What?
And just in general.
Yeah, people often approach me like they would a car salesman.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't trust a word that's coming out of your mouth until I see the actual result.
I think that's just kind of in general these days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perhaps.
It's actually fairly justified. Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Any other fun questions?
I don't know. I don't know. I've been digging all
Do
the
we
pretty,
want to talk
pretty
about
pictures
any
of wedges.
specific products, or we're kind of avoiding
I don't
that? We're
know.
not doing a show and tell per se. But
No.
I don't know.
So
This
Like-
is the
like I
season
said-
finale, man. We got to
Yeah.
pull out all the stops.
yeah.
Like I said, every brand has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's kind of important to know those. There's some, they're good. They may have good woods. The irons not as good, or like great putters, but the wedges aren't great.
Every company specializes in something.
Every company has been good at some. Like, look at what a company has had success with for a long period of time. That generally means they've got it down. For example, the best example I can think of is Ping Woods. Like, you still go to the original Ping G from 15 years ago, and it still sells for $200 because they're still desirable, and they were good then, and they're somewhat comparable even now, competitive with some drivers that are out there that are newer. So yeah, look at something that's had longevity that hasn't undergone drastic changes. That's the other thing. You look at a Ping, there's a G400 in here. The overall like shape and design looks almost the same as the G440. The internals are different, the materials are different, and that's where you get the improvements. The weighting's a little different, like I said, because of upgraded materials. But the overall shape and design and the technology, it's been enhanced but not drastically changed.
Right.
If you see a company that's very, very different year to year, it's probably because it wasn't working.
It's because they're just guessing.
And it wasn't
They're shooting
selling.
in the dark.
It's like, well, that didn't work. We got to try again and start from scratch.
You've got a 12-year-old
We
kid
gotta
in
make
the
it
back
square.
making clubs. What was the one bullet-headed thing that was like, it had a face on it, but then it had like two arms in the back? This was back in the 90s, I think.
Oh, well, there's the hammer driver.
Was that what it was?
That looks like that. It looks a big hole in the middle.
Yeah.
Is that the guy that
Or
would
the-
scream boom every
Yeah.
time he'd hit it?
That thing sounded so weird.
That's why you had to scream boom when you
Yeah.
hit
To
it.
cover it up.
Cover it up.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, look at something like if it's tried and true and it's been popular, there's probably a reason.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and remind everybody, just because they don't know. What clubs are here? What do
Yes,
we
we
get to play
have
with here?
Cleveland, Srixon, Ping, and Mizuno currently.
Okay.
Maybe in future years we might look into other brands as well.
Sure.
Just kind of
Yeah.
as the fittings become more frequent, more popular, it'd be great to offer more options.
Get some top flight golfsmith in here as well.
Probably not.
No, definitely not.
No, we like
There's
to work
really-
with brands that
Does
kind of share
Does
our
Top Flight even
philosophy.
make clubs anymore? Is
Yeah.
Is that just Walmart?
They do.
All right. I haven't seen Top Flight.
McGregor came back.
What?
They started making clubs again.
Wow.
They're owned by Dick's Sporting Goods now. So they're
Of course.
Makes sense.
exclusively at
House
Golf
brand.
Galaxy and Dick's.
Nice.
Even Ben Hogan came out with a new set
Okay.
just last week. So
He designed them himself.
From the grave.
They're
Doubtful.
identical to the set in the 70s.
actually pretty, they look
Gorgeous.
about the same.
They are pretty to look at.
They are very nice looking.
Yeah.
There
They're
you go.
timeless.
So yeah, we like to work with brands that kind of share our philosophy of
Yeah.
actually caring about the golfer as a golfer, meaning that their clubs promote playability.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely brands out there that are, I'm just going to sell you because you hit it far. We're just going to turn the lofts way down, make it easy to hit it.
Yeah.
An
Speed
extra
and
20
distance.
yards. It's all about speed and distance. Then you get out and it's like, why can't I stop these on the green? And some of them go 20 yards further than the other when I hit it the same.
Because your 8 iron's a 5 iron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we like to work with brands that actually care about people playing golf better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always
not just-
good when they're a little nerdy.
yeah.
Nerd is good.
Yep.
Engineer is good.
And don't forget about the putter. That was one of the craziest parts of the fitting I did a couple years ago.
Ironically,
He was like, yeah, let's just try it. Let's just try it. And he hands me this mallet putter, and I'm going, dude, I hate mallets. Don't give me a mallet. He goes, give me 4 putts. I went, okay, fine. So I putt 4 times. He's like, perfect, great. That's all I needed. Hand it to me. Does a few things to it, hands it back to me, and it's like, oh,
yeah.
this feels balanced, and that's
the,
so
the
weird.
irony is we're kind of absent from putter fitting at the moment, just trying to figure out what our game plan is there. But
Yeah.
we have done a lot of work with Even Roll in the past and still have a lot of respect for them. And putter fittings, and I've done a lot of putter fittings in the past with Even Roll, and they're actually often the most fun.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
can get if you have some form of feedback. I used to use the live board a lot, but obviously in tech world, you're going to get a lot of the Sam Putt Lab or whatever. And you just get such immediate feedback with putter
Oh, yeah.
fittings.
Yeah.
That's really intriguing. And so I think we'll get back to those at some point. We just got to figure out a game plan.
Figure out a better way to
So-
do them.
Some of it's space and setup, and it's also though, it's like its own world. I mean, when you go into a PJ Superstore and they have freaking hundreds of putters on double decker racks surrounding the
Yeah.
entire putting green. It's such a almost endless world that can be kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, there are a lot more independent putter companies out there
Yeah.
than any other part of the bag.
Well, yeah, because you get specialty brands that don't make any other golf clubs.
Right.
Like
Lab,
Bentonardi
for example.
or Lab or
That's how we found Even Roll.
that's
all they
Even
make.
Roll or
Yeah.
And they do a great
I
job.
mean, Scotty's an offshoot of Titleist,
But they're
it's
just
still
small enough as a
Yeah.
company. I mean, they've grown a lot since we found them
Yeah.
in 2017. But like
Yeah.
a lot of companies in that development stage, they're pivoting and changing things so frequently.
Yeah.
We're
hard to
also
keep
being a
up.
small business. It was hard to keep up with their product line.
Yeah.
So,
and then if they all have demands, it's
Yeah.
it's
Right.
just simply financially hard to keep up.
and we're
Can't
just
host all that stuff.
we're always going to stick to, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right and make sure that what we're offering to the customer can sincerely help them. And so at a point where it makes sense, I mean, look, Cleveland's putters are incredibly underrated. Ping, they built their name on putters. It's not that they don't offer quality products. It's that we need the space and time to be able to, properly outfit any golfer. And so at a point where it makes sense, we'll certainly incorporate that because it
Yeah.
is, I mean, stroke value, it's the most important club in the bag. So that's not debatable. And we want to make sure that we're giving, some of our clients, some tried and true advice when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, it's been nice to add wedges this year with Cleveland
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
even Mizuno. We got a bunch of demos of wedges there.
JT's wedges look pretty.
Yeah. Yeah,
Those were
Cleveland
fun.
offering a lot of customization.
Yeah.
On their irons as well, even on Srixon. You can customize pretty much anything in terms of color and
Yeah, John's set's going to look pretty sick when we get that in December.
or we can always do that in-house too. It's not always about new clubs. It's
Yeah. Yeah,
we can retrofit old sets with new shafts. You know, we can do loft and lie adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important offering and mentioning that we can custom order pretty much any product. So if you're even looking to get refit for clubs that you really don't want to get rid of the heads and they make sense for you, we can always do full custom builds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can go all the way down to ferrules and grips and go
Even
as crazy as you want to go.
Paint color.
Right.
Yeah.
Can do pretty much anything.
We'll be
club-wise.
experimenting with stamping soon.
Yeah.
Get a stamping kit and start playing with that stuff.
And how often should we be changing these lovely clubs out?
It depends on a little bit frequency of play. Obviously, if you're wearing them out, like you're starting to see those rust spots on the faces.
You're hitting 6 inches behind the ball every time.
Yeah, sandblasting the finish off them. But generally speaking, for your average amateur, we're talking about 7 to 10 years for irons, 5 to 7 years for driver and fairway woods. And then wedges usually a little more frequently because they do wear a little more quickly. The grooves tend to wear out and you get less spin and just not as good a feel over time. But yeah, basically if they wear out, then time to get new ones.
How do you know they wear out though? Like what are you looking for?
Well, yeah, like I said, you're looking for dark spots in your grooves. If you look at your grooves, if they've flattened out and like the edges of the grooves have gotten close together.
If there are no more grooves.
There are no more grooves.
Well, and depending on skill level, you'll just notice. You'll be able to. You won't be as able to create spin in certain areas that you were before,
Right.
so you'll start to pick up on that.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't apply to everybody, but I was going to say I notice it with my wedges when my check spin green side starts to turn into a lot of bump and runs. This ball doesn't stop anymore when I want it to, and I'd say like frequency wise, I've noticed wearing of equipment in as little as 100 rounds to 150 rounds, and I mean with my schedule these days that takes me 5 years to accumulate that type of round play, but if you're playing consistently enough, you'll see that wear out in 100 rounds, and tour players are changing wedges every 2-3 weeks. Because of how many balls that they're hitting. And
that much?
Yeah.
Not putter grips, though.
Not putter grips. No.
In fairness, you shouldn't be taking a lot of full swings with putter.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Or get yourself a set of cast pings. You can have them for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Because those things are bulletproof.
They kind of are. Yeah. We did a reshaft for a set of Ping I2s years ago.
Yeah.
For a high school kid.
I've had a few fittings recently where I bought this set brand new back in 1982 and figured I got my money's worth and I should get my next set for the rest of my life. It's like, all right, well.
Yep.
To be fair, that's most fittings, isn't it?
Do it
I mean,
right.
not that extreme, but
Yeah.
I don't. Most people, you get the odd person that's overly obsessed with changing equipment constantly, but I think most people are pretty well due for an upgrade when they come in.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you see, even like tour players' bags, it's like if it still works and gets you the distance you want, we're still getting good launch, good spin.
Yeah.
Your needs haven't changed.
Yeah.
Like obviously, if your swing has changed, you're gonna need different lie angles, different lofts, all that stuff. But if Freddie Couples is still playing a Callaway FTI 3-wood, which was from like 2002. It's like it worked. It did exactly what he wanted every time. So why change it?
But that's what an honest fitting will tell you too, is the fitter will just say, hey, we're not seeing any real gains here.
And I've had a couple
no matter
of those
what
this
we
year.
try, so leave it be.
2 weeks ago, I had a guy come in looking for new driver fairway woods and hybrids. Didn't see any gains in the driver. In fact, his driver was better because it was more familiar. So he just put a new grip on it. Same thing with his 3-wood, but needed a new hybrid or 2 hybrids because the old ones were so outdated. He'd lost distance with them. The shaft didn't quite fit his swing anymore. And the faces had kind of worn out. They were actually a little bit caved in. So he lost a ton of distance that way. So yeah, we got 2 new hybrids and just regripped the driver and 3-wood. So that's, that can happen as well. Don't always need to change the equipment entirely, or it might be just like a loft adjustment, a lie adjustment.
Yeah.
Bend the clubs to a different. I did that yesterday. I had a guy come in for a fitting, and his lie angle was 2.5 degrees off, and couldn't figure out why he was heel chunking everything and heel chunk hooking every shot. So I bent one of his clubs to the correct lie angle, and suddenly it's like, oh, I'm catching everything flush. And it's not going left. It's like, well, yeah, there's your issue. So it's like you don't need new equipment. We just need to adjust what you currently have.
Yeah. There you go.
And don't overlook grips either.
Yeah, regripping
man.
is like a temporary new set of clubs.
Yeah.
It makes it feel fresh again.
And grip
Fresh pair of
size.
socks.
Grip size is super important as well.
Especially if you have supple hands.
And on that note,
All right, well, gentlemen, it's been a good season. Good season
This
too.
is great.
We're gonna
Yeah.
take the summer off and go golf. So
yeah,
we'll probably be back
we're
in the fall.
tired of
play.
you subscribers.
In fact, some of you unsubscribe.
That's not what you want to say now.
Oh, whoops.
No.
Oh.
You can think it. That's inside voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out on the golf course, and as the season goes along, get those tune-ups in, get those clubs fit, especially if your grooves are gone. But the Imperial team, I mean, I'm sitting here with the guys, but I'm not just a podcaster. I'm also a student. So, no, it's great guys to work with. And I think as the season goes along, you get some opportunity to see some improvements and make some real actual quick changes to what you're doing to help you improve, which just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
I think most
That's
of
the
us
plan.
Yeah, I think most of us do this. Some of it personal challenge, right? It's just like you always want something to be working on, and sometimes you don't get that in other places. But
That's
yeah,
golf. There's always something to
There's
improve.
always something in golf. So.
Yep. You bet.
So very cool. So we'll see what season 3 holds in store. I don't know
Yeah.
what celebrities we'll get next year.
Maybe
We're
Rory.
working on it.
Maybe Rory. Yeah.
Sure. A guy named Rory.
Rory.
Homeless guy down the street.
Yeah. It's the other Scottish guy in Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris. So Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, close.
Yeah.
We'll just call him Rory.
Have him dye his hair.
We could probably get him a wig hat.
He'd have to walk in on his knees, probably.
Yeah, he would. Yep. Cut him down by a foot.
I like it. Well, it's been fun hanging with you guys. Go back and watch all the old episodes, and we'll see you in the fall for season 3.
Sweet.